Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
Ron and Benji and Geoff, baseball and football, no women there. Athletics, half the sport. I'm talking about, and not
Bill.
the other factor is the health and fitness
professional
factor.
women's soccer teams in Europe. There's
What's that?
professional soccer teams, women's teams here in the US.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
That is what's going to break the back of football.
You're going to see. Well, we've got the World Cup coming over here. This 2 years, 3 years.
Yes.
When's the World Cup?
Yes.
26.
Yeah,
That would be
26.
great.
So we've got, what is today? I forget what year we are.
2000,
So 2 years.
2025.
They're building a women's soccer stadium in Boston now, down by the track in Franklin Park, where I ran in high school, track and cross country a little bit. And now they're putting a huge women's financed women's soccer. There's already men's soccer in New England, the Revolution, owned by the Kraft family, who owns the Patriots football. As soccer rises, I think it can rise because it's the younger generation that's going to do it. It's not us. It's not our grandparents. They're all watching baseball and football. But this is a health and fitness issue, and women are going to lead the way on that, I think. You watch. I think so. Let's check in 10 years and see.
Well, you look at the women's basketball, that Caitlin Clark that has just taken the country by storm.
What's
Know who I'm
that?
talking about? Caitlin Clark. She's taken the U.S. by storm with basketball.
Basketball is a good sport. It's cardio. It's cardio.
Yeah.
I think that's another case, Ron, of this happening. We haven't seen soccer yet. Football,
I don't know. The U.S. women have done quite well in the world scene of soccer.
Yeah.
Oh, and World International Olympic Games and World Cup, yes. That's what I agree, Benji. But I am saying, and the seeds have been planted for the last 30 years, but they're going to come into play now that they're into athletics 50-50. Once they come in,
Actually, there are more women participants than male participants in the marathons.
Yeah.
There are more women running marathons than men. It's not a lot more, but it's more than 50% women.
I would go as far as to say at every event, like if you go to a 5K, there's more women than men. You go to a 10K, there's more women than men. You go to a half marathon, there's more women than men.
Whatever. Ultimately, it's going to even out. I mean, the population is 50-50 or so. But in the majors, it's not. Women have not surpassed total numbers.
Well, no, I think you're wrong there, Bill. I think that Boston and New York have...
Check it. I've checked it. I've seen it. But if you find it, let me know, Benji.
I'll go check.
Either way, the point is just that women are out there in big numbers. And I think they're going to change the sports world in the U.S. like they have, like Ron mentioned in basketball, Caitlin Clark. It's sometimes one star, but you really need the teams, and then the teams develop. So I think that will happen. But please don't let that game of rugby or that game of, what was that one, Geoff, that's played in Great Britain, the Commonwealth countries? Cricket. Please don't send that over here, okay?
It's already, Bill. It's already here. It's been here for 100 years. You're going to Boston, the West Indies, the Caribbean natives, the people from India. They all play cricket here. You go to New York, there's cricket teams. I mean, like the US had a team in the World Championships for cricket last year or this year.
Last year came across a group of here in Boulder playing cricket. I had to sit there for a few seconds and say, "What in the hell are they doing?" Oh yeah, it's cricket. And Bill, you're right. It's the majors. It's only about 47% women, 53% men.
Benji and Geoff, Ron, is cricket a cardio sport, or is it like field hockey?
It's the same as basketball. It's the same as baseball.
Yeah, it's very similar to baseball, and because you've got a bat and you've got a pitcher, and there are people out there catching. I don't know exactly the rules, and you got the wickets.
I have
got to knock off.
No idea about cricket.
Don't we all regret having gone to the marathon where you could have played a little cricket game with a little bat and run?
Hey, I was the captain of the cricket team. What the hell?
I actually played baseball for a little bit until I got almost hit in the head. This was back before we had hard helmets.
Really.
And then I went on and I was the statistician for the team for like a year. And finally, I was good at math, so they put me as the statistician. But I kept looking for some sport that I could excel at.
Benji, I think baseball is a sport for kids. Football is a sport for nobody because all it is mass destruction of someone's body.
Unless you do flag football. Now, flag football is pretty good because if you're agile,
that would be okay.
Quick, you can keep them from catching your flags, and you can run up and down the field without getting caught.
I cannot believe they put flag football in the Olympics. Did you guys know that?
No,
they're
not
putting flag football.
No. But I would have been
because the U.S. has.
No, they put flag football in the Olympics.
That's right, and they'll try to get baseball in there too.
Well, they had baseball in there. Baseball was there, and they took it away.
They took it out.
Well, the rest of the world took it out. No one plays
it's not played anywhere else other than the U.S. and Japan and Cuba.
Gentlemen, I should know because
it takes 160 some games to get to the finals or something. That just seems a little ridiculous, doesn't it?
Money making
for baseball. Yeah. 162 games.
There's a lot of money being made, Ron.
They got to sell a lot of hot dogs and beer to make up for the.
That's right. I'm going to head out, guys.
Well, it's good talking with you, Bill. We'll keep talking here for a little bit, but it's good to have you.
Good talking, all right, Bill.
We'll catch up later.
We'll stay in touch. Geoff, are you coming to Boston this year?
Most probably. I'll see you there, Bill.
I'll see you at the Oak Room. And we got to get Ron and Benji there too.
I haven't been invited back since 83.
Well,
I'm inviting you. Come on.
I've been back there, but I haven't been invited.
Ron, I haven't been invited back since my 30th anniversary.
Really?
Yeah, it's true. We all gather at the main hotel near the finish line. A bunch of us. Jackie Hansen comes in, Roberta Gibb, Sarah Mae Berman, a lot of the old timers. John Anderson was there a few years ago because he won 73. But we just
John is not in the Oregon. John is not in the Oregon Hall of Fame.
Who's that?
John Anderson is not in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
I guess part of that might be he didn't go to Oregon in school, so that might be part of the problem for him.
But he's from Oregon.
Well, I know that, but the fact that he didn't go there, they might be punishing him for that.
One other thing. Are you guys donating to the Kenny Moore Literary Scholarship?
Yes, Amy and I have made a donation.
Good thing.
I totally forgot. I
think we've done it twice.
Was a good guy. Great marathoner.
Yep, he was.
Bye, Bill.
All right.
See you, Bill.
See you later, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So one thing we won't solve the Will's track and field problem.
No.
We will never get that this sport fixed the way it needs to be fixed and get really what recognition the sport deserves. It's I agree with Bill. It's a great sport. I don't think it's ever going to surpass or reach the numbers that he does.
I truly believe that road racing has killed track and field.
Well, it hasn't helped, but at the same time, Billy. The three of us, not you, Geoff, but the three of us, we wouldn't have had a career if we had to just depend on track. We weren't. Yeah. We weren't able to be on the track. Plus, when we did go to the track, it cost us as opposed to helped us.
Well, I think Geoff obviously could have done well on the track.
And he did. 5 miles, good.
Yeah,
it's no question.
He made an Olympic team on the track, but there just wasn't the money. The money didn't go that deep in track.
As well as the opportunity. There's only, there's not that many places you could put on.
Yeah. I made a conscientious decision.
I made the Olympic team for 10,000 meters, right?
Yep. Yeah, but didn't pay you squat.
I didn't get squat.
Yeah,
but
I recognized that in the 70s that there was no money to be made on the track unless you were, in the top 2 or 3. If you were a miler or a 100-meter guy, you could make some good money. But a guy like me who was capable of going under 4 minutes, you weren't going to get squat for that. But
I wasn't getting any recognition because I wasn't one of the I didn't come through the system. I wasn't a child prodigy, and all of the guys that were out there were child prodigies.
Well, you weren't Steve Cram, Steve Ovett, Sebco, you had to be at that level to be making anything, but on the roads, and you obviously started seeing that you could go to the roads and make some decent money. That's where Benji and I both came in. We both recognized that we're not going to do it on the track, even though we could run decent times on the track. You weren't decent times don't pay anything, but on the road we could go. I mean, I know I did pretty well running road races, and that's why I stayed away from the track after college.
But you got to remember, I was working 56 hours a week as a fireman.
That's crazy. I don't know how you could train for a marathon and run that and work that many hours.
Well, I wasn't training for the marathon at that time. I left to go to. I started training for the marathon when I was at Providence. But from 70 to 80, I was working on the fire station. I was 56 hours a week, 2 days on days, 2 days on nights, a day off, 2 days on days, 2 days on nights, 2 days. Oh, I mean, like 56 hours a week.
So you were just at the station like 2 hours straight. I mean, 2 days straight, right?
No, here's how I would my schedule was this: Monday, Tuesday, I would work days.
Okay, but when you
Wednesday,
say work, what were you doing?
Well, you go in the morning. I was on a quiet station, by the way. 3,000 calls a year. So we were in and out a lot. But you go in the morning, you would do a drill, run some hose out, put up some ladders, whatever, So you were doing stuff, cleaning the fire engine, cleaning the station, but you were going out to fires as well. And when you come back, you had to clean all the equipment.
Right.
And of a morning, you've got to check everything. So you take the ladders off the machine, put them up to make sure that they were fine, even though they look fine. You still, everybody, that was a given. You take it off. And my days, you go on days at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you get off at 6 o'clock in the evening, and you go on nights at 6 in the evening and get off at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was a 9-hour day, a 15-hour night.
The difference here, and I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but I had friends, at least one friend who was a distance runner, and he would actually be on 24 hours a couple days a week, then have a day off, then a couple days a week. And you had like 4 days one week and 3 days another week that he was there 24 hours. They go to the fire station and they slept there until they were needed.
I mean, we obviously slept there on the 15-hour night. I mean, it's changed now. It's they don't do 56 hours now. They've changed it. But when I was there, it was 56 hours.
Whoa.
And you had to adjust your training session to how your day or your night went. I mean, if you were at a major fire, you could come home and you're exhausted. So training was sort of around what you did. And the only good thing was you were young and you could generally fight through it and do the workout anyway. I try to tell people, in the 70s, you had, I was working 56 hours a week and trying to improve myself and to become a runner, but I had to work 56 hours a week. Then you have Rod and the Crams and the Ovets and the Coes. Those guys weren't working. They were full-time athletes. So you go to a race. I go to races off a night shift. So I look at what I've done. I'm really proud of what I've done because I've done it besides what I had to do.
Despite what you had to do, yeah.
Geoff, when did Adidas pick you up? What year was it?
When I qualified for the Olympics in 1980.
So I've learned over some of these pods that the Americans were making a lot more money with shoe contracts than Europeans were.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I was getting nothing. I didn't even get anything from Adidas. All I got off Adidas was a bag full of equipment for the Olympics.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I went to the Olympic trials in 79. I was the fastest guy in the world. I'd run in April. I'd run 28:02 or something.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. You had impressive track times.
And then I got shin splints. I couldn't run. But the only good thing is because I'd run so fast and I'd suddenly become an A runner or a B runner anyway. I got in to see a doctor straight away. I had the compartment syndrome.
Oh boy.
That was before they done done it orthoscopically. I've got a 10-inch scar down my calf where they split me open, and I had a cast on from my ankle to my hip for 6 weeks.
This is before Moscow.
This was in August of '79, but in April, as I say, I had the fastest time in the world, and it was still the fastest time in the world till September. The last meets of the year, everybody started running like 27, mid 27s.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had the cast off. There was nothing left of my leg, so I started working on building up that leg, get myself back into running again. I changed coaches, pushed myself. The new coach said, you've got to do. We've got a lot of catching up to do. So we were doing speed work, we were doing distance work. Trying to get stronger and stronger. Because I wanted to make the Olympic team. By January, I won the I won the Lancashire Championship. So it would be like winning the states.
Hey, Geoff, so what kind of mileage and interval? It sounded like our training was similar: Tuesdays and Thursdays intervals, Sundays long runs. So after you made the transition from the track to the roads and to the marathon, what kind of mileage were you putting in?
I was doing about 105.
Okay, so not a lot. I mean,
You're sort of
good
between
mileage,
me
but
and Ron. Ron was higher than that, and I was lower than that, but neither one of us were a lot different. I mean, I was like 85, 95, and were you about 120, Ron?
Yeah, about 120.
Well,
When I started working with
the Olympic year, I got up to
which Olympic year, 84 or 80?
80. After when I was playing catch up.
Uh-huh.
So I was doing speed work, doing distance work. So I got up to about 130 mile a week. I was still not recognized, by anybody. I wasn't getting trips anywhere.
That's a shame because in the States you would have.
Yeah.
Had you been a U.S. citizen, you would have been getting you would have been able to just live off your running.
Then I go to the Olympic trials in May or June, whenever it was, and Foster and McLeod are both pre-selected for the 10,000 meters.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the trials, and there's only one spot available.
Who were some of the guys? Who were some of the guys you were competing against at the trials in 80?
The field consisted of Steve Jones, Nick Rose, Julian Gota, Bernie Ford, Tony Simmons. It was an incredible field.
Yeah, I mean, those are all names that we'd all have trouble picking out. Which one would be the best to pick out?
So, you go there, and there's no Foster and McLeod. They've been pre-selected.
Yeah.
So we're running for one spot, and they had their mindset on Nick going.
That's what I would have guessed. That I'm surprised that Rose wasn't pre-selected.
No. Foster Foster and McLeod were a lot faster, and Nick had the disadvantage. He was over here, which ended up affecting me when I came out. Anyway, I win the trials, and I get the qualifying time, the Olympic qualifying time, but I wasn't the person that they wanted to go, and they didn't select me.
Even after winning the trials, they didn't select you?
No,
because
they didn't.
I saw that you ran the ticket.
No, they didn't select me. They left it open. They said, we're looking at this, blah blah blah, and the press went to town on them. I was the flying fireman. I should be going, blah blah blah. Anyway, 2 weeks later, we're up in Edinburgh, and we're the 5,000 meter trial again. Foster and McLeod have been pre-selected, so they're not there. The field is exactly the same field that was at the 10,000 meters. Everybody's there, and I got beat by Dave Black, in a sprint finish. After that, they relinquished, and I got selected. But it took 2 weeks before they
2 races.
And 2 races, yes.
That's So your trials, I didn't know how the British ran their Olympic trials. So like, and you know how we run our trials. It's basically the same week.
I love the American trials.
You
I
do
mean,
like the way.
it is the only way to go, especially back then because it was an amateur sport. You know, I mean, I was disappointed. I'm very disappointed that Foster and McLeod didn't run because you know I'm working 56 hours a week and I'm pushing myself to make the Olympic team. Well, you know what? These guys are not working 56 hours a week, and they're not going to stand on the line and give me an opportunity to beat them. You know, your system. Yeah, okay, you mightn't get the best guy in the world. You might have an off day. Well, so friggin' what? You're going to have the best guys on that day that are going to go. And we all deserve that opportunity. And, you know, they've done the same with the 800 meters and the
No,
50. Co and Ovett were both pre-selected. I know a bunch of guys that didn't get an opportunity. You know, they trained their ass off at 800. They trained their ass off at 1500. They didn't get an opportunity to go because there was only one spot. I love your system.
yeah, I like our system too. I mean, probably would have benefited in '84 by having your system, but
Well, yeah, but you wouldn't have been very competitive because you were injured.
oh, I know. That's why I'm saying it's the right system. I wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have, I'd have been taking the spot of someone else that was more
And the same
deserving.
with me. I was somebody that they thought should be on the team in '84, but my career was over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, both you and I both would have benefited by the way the Brits do it.
But yeah, I mean, I do think I will argue a little bit with Coe and Ovett not being pre-selected, and that they both got medals, but at Moscow. But
yeah, but you know
you
what?
can see the argument.
If they'd have come to the trials, they would have won the trials.
That's why I say I'd argue a little bit. I mean, at the same time, they wouldn't be hurt by having another competition.
No.
Competition is something people shouldn't be afraid of.
Yeah.
How did Foster do at the Olympics in Moscow?
He didn't get a medal.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and then I go to the Olympics. It's my first international race virtually. I've never raced an international competition before.
Hmm.
And I get there, you know, they used to have heats back then.
Yep.
So you have to run the heat. The heats come out, you know, and you look to see who you're up against. I was in the first heat and I had everybody and God in my race. And then we went off at 2:00 in the afternoon. It was 30 degrees in the stadium. There was Yifta, Vainio, Viren, the other Ethiopian, John Tracy, the Russian, I can't remember his name now, Aspinov or something like that. I mean, like the heat was my heat was loaded. And as I say, it was 2:00 in the afternoon, hot as hell. John collapsed. Out of the 16 people that started, 7 finished.
Whoa.
Wow.
I finished staggering down the friggin' back straight. I ran like 29:10 or something like that. They knew exactly, you know, and we went out super fast. I mean, they went out like really, really fast. So our heat was super fast. All the other heats. And then after our heat, it ended for the afternoon session. The others came back in the evening when it was cool, and they knew what time they had to run to qualify. So each of the other heats were just jogs around. You know, if I'd have been in the second or third heat, I would have qualified. So I went. I mean, you couldn't get drunk because there was no freaking alcohol. But I went and ate myself stupid. The 5 guys from my heat all made the final. Only 2 of us didn't make it. And as I say, John was stretchered off the track with an IV and spent 2
Jeff,
days.
So if you could go back in time and change anything in your running career, your racing career, is there anything that you would change?
Yeah, I'd be a freaking miler.
Oh yeah, a 3:55 in your one and only mile race. That would be interesting to see what you were fully capable. What was your 400? You know how fast you could run an open 4?
I could run. I was running about 23 seconds for 2.
All right, so you were probably a 48, 49
I never raced 400.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
I mean,
sure,
I was doing about 53 seconds.
now you have to be faster than that.
No,
Yeah,
but
no,
he's
but
saying he
I
was
say
kicking in 53.
I was just doing them by myself. I never went into a competition to run 400.
Yeah.
So like, I'd go
Because-
down and I'd run a 400 flat out, and I'd be running somewhere between 53 and 55
Or how
repeats.
many of them?
I'd do 4.
Okay.
So, I'll
Because-
tell you,
yeah.
here's my session in 1980, right before the, like getting ready for the Olympics. I get up, 5 mile in the morning, 10 in the afternoon. And then on track days, I do my 5 in the morning. I go to track in the afternoon. I warm up for 2 mile. I do an 800 or a mile flat out, 4-4, 4-5. Then I go jog for 5 minutes. I come back. I do 4 200s with a lap and a half jog recovery at 23, 24, 25. I go jog. I jog
really good.
Jog 2 minutes. I do 4 400s, 53, 54, 55-ish with a 2-lap jog recovery. After the 4, I go run for 10 minutes, come back. I do a 3 mile time trial at 6, but the goal is to run 68 minutes, 68 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'd run 68 seconds, but the coach would have one of the kids jump in and run a 400 at 60 seconds, and I had to sit on him. And then then he'd drop out, and I'd go back to my 68s, and then he'd have him come in again and do another 60. I had to sit on him, and then go back to 68. And they'd come in, and I'd do 360s inside of my 68s.
That's your 208 for your 800. So that's a pretty solid workout, a continuous run for
And
5K.
And
It
then
doesn't sound like
finish
you've done it yet.
then I'd do it. Then I'd finish it off with a jog. We finished at the 3 mile. He said jog around to the 200 and give me a 200 flat out, and I'd run like 25, 26 at the end of the session.
Interesting workout. I like that. Actually, I like the way the guy would jump in for the 60 and then you drop back to 60. I like that workout.
It's
do that
also
with
a
some
lot
of
of
my
variation in the workout. I don't think there was any boring parts.
I used to, yeah, I do. I like.
I used to love it. I mean, like we go down the track, and all the speed there, the 200s, the 400-meter guys, and they'd be sitting there stretching, and by I'm there an hour. The session took an hour and 3/4, and I worked it out. It was about 15 miles at the end of the day. All
That's
the courses,
intense.
because you do. And I go back to it. My coach was a masseuse on the Tour de France, so I'll go back to his house in the afternoon, and I get a massage. And I hated hot tea. I hated sweet tea. I go to his house. I had to have sweet friggin' tea, tea with honey in it. Oh, I hated sweet tea. I had to sit there and drink it. I get a massage though, and as I'm leaving, he say, "Now go out tonight and do a 8 to 10, nice and easy." And how
So
nice
you're
and easy
getting
was
a-
like 6 minute pace.
Is this okay? So is this track training or marathon training?
This was my catch up workouts.
This is
When I said
79's injury period, him catching up to be ready for the 80.
Wow.
so,
Yeah.
like on Tuesdays and Thursdays was a catch up day.
I thought some of my training was intense. Wow, that's really intense.
That's intense.
So I go down and I loved every second of it. It was like, oh, this is hurt me more.
Yeah, you and I did the 10-mile runs and I did those in 48, 49 minutes. I would do that periodically in my training. But yeah, 15-mile, hour and 3/4 training run or workout on the track, and wow, that's amazing. Then come back with an 8 to 10-mile run in the afternoon. That's solid.
And
I don't know
paid off
I
because
don't
I
know
went to
too
the
many
Olympic
people that can
trials.
do that.
It paid
Hey,
off because I
what?
got to the Olympic trials and I won.
What was your time of the trials?
Yeah.
I ran 28:20.
Okay. I'm just curious.
I mean, but it was
2802.
but,
2802.
you got to look. It was 2820. It was pissing down with rain and blowing a gale.
Yeah, so
That sounds like
you can't
Eugene,
really,
Oregon.
you can't really say much about that other than you won. I mean,
Yeah.
But everybody else had to run the same conditions, and you beat them.
Yeah, I think Nick was sick,
No,
but I mean he was leading because I didn't go out with them. I came through. I ran my own race and I just came through picking people off.
Yeah.
Wasn't Nick on the 80 Olympic team?
No.
Yeah, I was thinking he was on the 80 Olympic
He was in.
team.
I think he was on the 84 team.
Okay, yeah, I thought for sure he
In
was on one of the teams.
1980, the 10,000 meters was Foster McLeod and myself, and the 5,000 meters was Foster McLeod and Dave Black.
Yeah, if you're going to have guys doubling in the 5 and the 10, and you have heats, then they should have had trials just so you could make sure you had the best athletes in there. I don't know if McLeod and Foster.
No, I'll give you another sub story then. In 78, I'm still nobody in 78, and it's the Europeans Championships and the Commonwealth Games, and they're a month apart. The Commonwealth Games, I think, was in New Zealand, I think.
That sounds right. I'll look it up while you're talking.
And then the Europeans obviously were somewhere in Europe. Anyway, the trials come around. Guess what? Foster McLeod are pre-selected.
It was in Edmonton.
Oh, Edmonton, Canada?
Alberta, Canada.
Okay. I couldn't remember where it was, but
that's all right.
Well, I didn't go as well.
Yeah.
If I'd have gone, I would have remembered where it was.
Probably would have, yes.
But they pre-selected Foster McLeod for the 5,000, 10,000 for the Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
They pre-selected them for the 5,000, 10,000 for the Commonwealth. And again, I finished second in the trials.
You guys have kind of your system doesn't work.
I felt like I should have gone to either one of them, either the Commonwealth or the Europeans, or Foster McLeod should have been out there and racing me,
Are you guys? Does England or Great Britain, do they still run their trials the same way with pre-selections?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. You would think. I
mean, I've been a big advocate. I said, the sport's dying. I said, we need to adopt the American system. I said, because you can fill the stadium up for a week by having the trials, having the standards. People have got to get the qualifying times to make the trials. And then, you've got a full calendar of events on with all the Brits, the Welsh. You'll fill a stadium up with mum, dad, uncle, everybody be going to see their kids.
Well, not just that. I mean, I went to the Olympic trials here in Eugene, so you fill it also up with fans. I mean, I don't have any horses.
But I mean, you're going to fill the stadium with fans, but you're also going to get all the mums and pops, and because it's a big deal.
And it's also a development approach, because you'll end up having a bunch of people that have no chance of making the team, but they now have an opportunity to run against the people who are going to make the team and develop because of it.
Yeah. Well, I always say that I'm too old to get involved anymore.
We all are. Yeah. We're too old for anybody to care about our opinions, apparently.
I learned something, Geoff, from your that workout. I was really intrigued with a couple of the things that you mentioned with workouts.
I think this is, I've been hearing lots of it. I had to do various household tasks, but this is one of the more exciting. Anyway, I'm looking forward to Benji's edits.
But Geoff, there was a lot I really didn't know.
Can you edit out all my F's?
It was fascinating. I almost wish you could publish the whole thing, but you better be careful about that. But
there'll be some to take out. But in general,
it was great.
I didn't know much of your history. I knew you because of Boston and New York, and beyond that, I didn't know that much. Obviously, our careers didn't really overlap very much, but this has been a great opportunity for us to get to know you, and that's part of why I wanted to do this.
I mean, I as I said, I was working as a fireman from 70 to 80, doing the nights, and I would go off nights and go straight to races. I ran the Wigan 6. I'd been out from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. at a fire. I got off work at 9 a.m. I got home. I'm in bed by 9:30. I said, Dad, wake me up at noon. And my dad drove me to the race.
Yeah.
I run the 6. I win the 6 miler. The race was at 3 o'clock. I couldn't even stay for the awards ceremony because my dad had to drive me back. I was at work at 6 o'clock to do the next night shift. It was a fantastic life. I loved every minute of it. It made me who I am. So
running has made us all who we are.
That's exactly, running made us exactly what we are today.
I'm glad we got to have you on here, Geoff. I mean, it's just really been a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you all soon, hopefully.
Yep, hopefully.
Maybe we'll see you at Boston this year.